Welcome to CitedMoon.com. The Garden of Eden. Where is it? Become part of our team by sharing these teachings around the world. With a $5 per month donation at CitedMoon.com, you will help support our teachers in Africa and the Philippines. Because there are some who are saying that Eden is in the Philippines or Jerusalem, we want to look at it and understand the truth. Not some imaginary story about the rivers going under the ocean and ending up in some other part of the world. We are only looking for the truth. So, let's begin with the scriptures that speak about Eden. Genesis chapter 2, verse 10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it was divided and became 4 heads. The name of the first is Pishon. That is it which surrounds all the land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one that surrounds the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Tigris. It is that which goes toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. Let's begin with the rivers we know and let's look at them in the original languages to learn what they were called back then. The fourth river that came from Eden was the river Perith. The ancient Sumerians called it Baranan. Even today you can find this river called by the Arabs, Farat, which is harking back to Perith. The Greeks are the ones to call this river the Euphrates. This is the Murat River. And this is the Karasu River. These two join and form the Farat, which is also known as the Euphrates. And this other river is the Tigris. The Farat is from an unused root meaning, to break forth, or rushing. The Farat name was changed to Perith then later to the Euphrates River. This is the start of the Tigris River, with 2 branches joining into one. The Greater Zab River Basin, here, and the Lesser Zab River Basin, here, drain the Zagros Mountains. I just want you to know all the rivers that make up these 2 great rivers spoken of in Genesis. The original Sumerian name of the river was Idinya or Idigina, and was probably from I-Gina, which means running water. This can be interpreted as the Swift River. The Akkadian pronounced it as Idiklat. The Hebrews pronounced the river as Hiddekel, while in Syriac it was Diklat, and in Arabic Dijla. The ancient Greek form Tigris meaning tiger, was adapted from Old Persian Tigra, itself from Elamite Tigra, itself from Sumerian Idinya. So, Genesis chapter 2 verse 14, when it speaks of the river Hiddekel it is today called the Tigris. The Hiddekel or Tigris begins in the high Zagros Mountains southwest of Lake Van. Mesopotamia is another Greek word and means, as you already know, between the 2 rivers. That is the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates. We now have 2 positive identifications out of 4. To learn the third we go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 13. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is the one which goes around the whole land of Cush. Most modern scholars are extremely bad at researchers, for they right away say that this is Africa, and as such this next river must be the Nile. Or they come up with some other extreme line of reasoning. Others say it is the Gihon Spring in Jerusalem. They are superimposing their own narratives into this description. Cush and his families did not go to the west with the rest of Noah's children. Where is the land of Cush? Well, we do have the Cush-e-Dah, or the mountain of Cush. And there is a river that runs through this whole mountain range. This is the biblical land of Cush. Grandma is pointing at the Cush-e-Dah mountain on this map, and Grandpa Joe is pointing at the Aras River, which flows through the mountains of Cush. The identity of the Gihon is a little more difficult to establish, but it has to be identified with the river Araxes, whose tributaries rise in the mountains north of Lake Van and Lake Urmia. Also near Erzurum. One of the tributaries is the Aras River, which starts near the anchor stones of Noah's Ark. The water is gushing up in this spring and is bitter to drink. They flow together and flow down to join the main channel, known as the Kur, which empties into the Caspian Sea south of Baku. The name Araxes, which is more recently referred to as the Iraqs or Aras, and the name Gihon obviously bear no resemblance to each other. This is a clear case of name change which has taken place in the past. It is not very hard to figure out that the name Aras or Iraqs, which the river is called today, changed not too long ago. During the Islamic invasion of the Caucasus in the 8th century AD, stretches of this river were still called Gihon. Before the Gihon became known simply as the Aras, the Persian of the last century referred to this river as the Jishan Aras. Interestingly enough, you will find the Gihon Aras in early biblical dictionaries and commentaries dating from the Victorian times. Today this crucial piece of information has apparently been forgotten, and you would be hard-pressed to find a modern work on Genesis which links the Gihon with the Aras. The name Gihon is from Strong's number 1518, and means to burst forth, just as it did near the anchor stones in Kazan, as said previously. Scriptures say, as already quoted, that this river Gihon flowed all through the land of Cush. Again, we have already shown you that in Iran, northwest of the city of Tabriz, to the area near the town of Ahar in Iran, there is a mountain there called to this day Cush-e-Dah, the mountain of Cush. From this understanding, we can now learn that although many of Noah's family migrated to the west following the Euphrates river system, some such as Cush went east and settled here in these mountains. We have now identified 3 of the 4 rivers that flowed out of Eden. The 4th river will be a little harder to locate, but once you see how languages evolve, and how names are changed, it should be easier to discover. And we have already identified 3 of the 4 rivers: the Euphrates, the Tigris, and the Gihon Aras. We can now begin to look in the 4th corner for this river. In this 4th corner is a river called Uzan. Could it be the river Pishon, of the Genesis chapter 2? Pishon, from Strong's number 6376, from number 6335, dispersive, to spread. This is not much help. We have the Euphrates in the northwest corner. We have the Tigris in the southwest corner. We now have the Gihon located in the northeast corner, which leaves us looking for a river in the southeast corner of Eden. In the Hebrew language, the consonant P can be a vowel U in another language. Shish can change to S, or Z, and O, to U. What I am explaining here may seem far-fetched to those who are not accustomed to the variance of languages, but an example is found in the modern name of Pizdeli, a mound on the southern shore of Lake Urmia. This mound derives from the ancient Iranian toponym Ush, or Uish, which was in common use throughout the general region of southern Urmia. Recently discovered contemporary texts confirm that Pizdeli was ancient Ushtari, demonstrating the well-attested changes from T, to D, and R, to L, but, most importantly, also U to P. When we apply those things we just learned, we can take the name Pishon, and arrive at the name, Uzan, P, to U, and Shish, to Z, and O, to U. There is a river in this southeast corner, called Uizhen. It is also known as Kezel Uzan, meaning long gold. The ancient name, Uizhen, is of unknown meaning and has been colloquialized into the familiar Iranian word, Uzan, which means dark red or gold. This river on my atlas is called Auzan, and today we call this same river the Pishon. Genesis chapter 2, verse 11. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one which skirts the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. In recent years, gold has been mined in the Ardabil region, a 7th century gold mine identified at Zarshuyin, near Takht-e-Suleiman. A river which flows from Takht-e-Suleiman is called Zaraneh Rud, which is the Golden River. Zarshuyin is formed by two Persian words, Zar, which means gold, and Shuyin, which means washing, as if you would be panning for gold in this area. Also, of note here is Genesis chapter 10, verse 7. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, and Sabteka, and the sons of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. Havilah, a son of Cush, is the one that has the land with much gold. Again, more proof that the descendants of Cush did not go west, as the other children of Noah did. Genesis chapter 2, verse 8. And Jehovah God planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground Jehovah God caused to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life also was in the middle of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. And from there it was divided and became 4 heads. We are told of this 5th river before we are told of the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. We showed you the Cush-e-Dah, the mountain of Cush. From these mountains comes this river that goes through all of Eden. It is called the Ad-Jeh River, and flows through Tabriz, a major industrial city which is there now. The river goes towards the marshes of Lake Urmia. It is totally polluted today, except for this paradise park in the middle of Tabriz. I would like you to just look at the next series of pictures from Eden and just think of the beauty that was once here. The Aladaglar Mountains are just 25 kilometers to the northeast of Tabriz, between Ahar and Hajjeh. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. And Jehovah God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And from that dust of the ground, Jehovah has made every color of mankind that there is today. The word Eden is from the root meaning pleasure or to live voluptuously, to delight oneself. In Sumerian, Eden, and Akkadian, Edenu, Eden is to be understood as an open plain or uncultivated land. The Hebrew word gan used for garden is from the verbal root ganon, to hedge in, or protect, and also means walled garden or enclosed park. Gan den would be a hedged-in plain, or protected plain. We read in Genesis chapter 2 verse 8, "The Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed." In other words, when we are in Eden, if we were to go to the east end we will find a garden. That is a walled-in plain. Having now established the 4 rivers that surround Eden and the one that flows through it, we are directed to look in the east end of Eden to find a plain, or plateau that is hedged in or protected. To the far east end of this garden there is a mountain pass here, which as most people know, a mountain pass is also known as a gate. Here then is the gate through which Adam and Eve were sent. Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. And Jehovah God said, "Behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore Jehovah God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he had been taken. And he drove out the man. And he placed cherubs at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to guard the way to the tree of life. We find at the head of this mountain pass, there lies the sleepy town of Helabad. Formerly it was known as Keruabad, which means, settlement of the Keru people. This could be a permutation of the Hebrew word, keruvim, that is translated as, cherubs, and the Keru, were the cherubim, cherubs, of Genesis who protected the eastern entrance into Eden. We read next in Genesis chapter 4, verse 18. And Cain went out from the presence of Jehovah and lived in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. To the northeast of this eastern gate of Eden is today, the land of Nokdi, which is the land of Nod, to where Cain went after he killed Abel. Outside this mountain pass, this eastern gate is Artabeel, which used to be called Nod. The land of Nod is where Cain was exiled after he had murdered his brother Abel. The area is still today called Upper and Lower Nokdi, and many villages bear the epithet Nokdi, which means, belonging to Nod. The expression, seventh heaven, comes down to us today because of the root, documented in the Sumerian cuneiform epic, in Merkur and the Lord of Aratta, supposedly taken 5,000 years earlier by an emissary of the Sumerian priest king of Uruk. The emissary had been dispatched to Aratta, on the plain of Eden, known to Sumerians as a land of happiness and plenty, to obtain gold and lapis lazuli to decorate a temple that Merkur was building in Uruk, a Sumerian city-state on the plains between Kurdistan and the Gulf. The cuneiform epic describes the dutiful emissary's 3-month trek on foot via 7 passes through the Zagros Mountains, to the foothills of Mount Sahan, the southern edge of Eden, and his successful procurement of the required valuables. It is this account that inspired the 7 gates of heaven motif in Talmudic tradition thousands of years later. The ancient Sumerians, Babylonians and Assyrians all knew of an earthly paradise that had once lain beyond the Zagros Mountains. Beyond what they called the 7 heavens, for them, Eden was still very much an earthly place. Only later Judeo-Christian tradition bestowed heavenly status on it. Thank you for watching this short presentation. If you want to learn more, you can order our book, The 2300 Days of Hell, from our website at sightedmoon.com. This book goes into great detail about this and much more. You can also order another one of our books, The Prophecies of Abraham, which will help you to understand the charts and much more. You can order it at sightedmoon.com. And if you want to know how to prove when the Sabbatical and Jubilee years are, you can order our book, Remembering the Sabbatical Year of 2016. It uses biblical scriptures, historical documents and artifacts to prove when the sabbatical years are. There are only 2 Jubilee year scriptures in the entire Bible, and they must line up with each other as well as all the sabbatical years. We now have 89 sabbatical and Jubilee years to reference, which all match each other. Order your copy of the book today. We also have all the sabbatical and Jubilee charts shown to you in this video, and every Jubilee cycle since the creation of Adam, available at our website. You can order it there, or you can order the entire package of books we are offering, at a discounted price. Prove what we are saying to be true, or prove what we are saying to be false, but you must prove it one way or the other. Keep the commandments, or deal with the curses for not obeying God. You get to choose. Choose wisely. Jehovah bless you and keep you. Jehovah make his face shine upon you, and be gracious to you. Jehovah lift up his face to you, and give you peace. And they shall put my name upon the sons of Israel. And I will bless them. Again, I want to thank you for watching this teaching. I want to encourage you to sign up for our weekly newsletter at sightedmoon.com, and to join us for our weekly online Shabbat services. Details in the newsletter. You have watched this video and you are able to take advantage of the many things we give away at sightedmoon.com for free, because someone else paid it forward. They paid it out last year or last month or last week, so you can watch and learn today for free. They paid it forward on your behalf and never even knew you. We want to encourage you to pay it forward as well on behalf of someone who has yet to see these things we are teaching. Maybe someone on the other side of the world or just down the road from you. To learn just how close we are to the end of this age is exciting. To be able to prove it using the Sabbatical and Jubilee cycles is exhilarating. But to understand what else the Jubilee cycles teach us about the end of this age and the coming of our Messiah will just blow your mind. So, we pray you will continue to study this subject and take advantage of the many things available to you at our website. And we pray you will become a partner with us paying this information forward so others, too, can learn. For the cost of a cup of coffee and a bagel, you can help us each month. Be a blessing to someone else. Go to our website and make a donation each month going forward. For as little as $5 per month, you will be helping us to pay our pastors in East Africa and the Philippines. You will also be helping us to complete the Bible schools we have already begun to build in Kenya and also in the Philippines. With your help we can translate this work into other languages. Once these projects are completed, you will be helping the farmers in these areas to improve their farms so that they are sustainable and ecological, and at the same time, so they can make a greater yield from the land they now have. The information is free. The gospel is free. But it costs money to bring the word to these places and to teach it. Help us today, by paying it forward.